Hi, this is CBRadioMagazine.com, and we're going to have a look at the Cobra 148 GTL AM and single sideband 40-channel radio. This is one of the most famous Cobra radios ever produced. It stands right up there with the Cobra 2000, and it's been very popular over the years, still in production. The radios currently are still very similar to the old ones. Most of the controls and layout look very similar. This particular model we're looking at today was made in Malaysia. These radios were also made in the Philippines, and I believe the newer ones are also made in China. The Cobra 148 is known to be an excellent single sideband radio. It definitely can have some good audio on AM and sideband once there's a couple adjustments done to the radio. The radios are known for having good receive, quiet reception, and they're very durable radios. They stand up well over time. They have very solid controls, and unlike some of the current export radios that are a little flimsy, the knobs break off, that just doesn't happen with the Cobras, especially the Cobra 148 in particular. Just very durable radios, and you'll see many of these operating 20-30 years old. Let's take a quick look down here at some of the features. One of the neat things is on this radio, on similar copycat 148 radios, you'll see is the Dynamite mic gain control is on the left hand side at the very left. You know, usually most radios the volume is the first knob, but in this case the Dynamite is the first knob on the left. You've got a dual knob setup for your volume and squelch. Your RF gain and SWR calibration are also on a dual knob control. This radio has a three-way switch here for the S meter, RF meter, and that controls all these functions on this particular switch control the meter. You have your SRS function, so you can see what's going on in the meter either in receive or transmit. You have a calibration feature so that you can adjust the calibration for SWR on the meter and the SWR meter reading. When you flip to that, it'll actually show the SWR reading. There's a AM, lower sideband, upper sideband control. Adjust your mode, so you can adjust your mode of operation. And right next to that is your voice lock or clarifier, and that's for tuning in stations on single sideband. Of course, there's your channel selector knob, and it'll show your LED display there. There's an RX-TX light, turns red during transmit. Going back to the left hand side on the top here, you have your ANL, automatic noise limiter, and your noise blank ANL switch. That can have two positions. It'll be off or in the middle position with just the ANL, or the upper position with both. You have a CB PA switch. This radio does have a jack on the back for a PA. There's a tone switch on this radio, which is kind of neat. It either has a high or low tone, so the audio coming through the speaker, well, you can adjust the tone. If someone has a really high-pitched voice or something, you can hit the low. And often during sideband and stuff, you can hit the low as well, and it'll cut back some of the hiss and make it a little softer on the receive, sound a little better through the speaker. There's also a bright dim switch, and obviously that's for dimming the lights on the face at night. This is really what a lot of radios have been based on for the last 20 years. The current exports and everything kind of copy the style and the face of this particular radio, and it's very similar to the Unit and Grant as well, also a very popular radio. This particular model is a side microphone. It's a 5-pin, and the Unit and Grants also have 5 pins on them as well. Makes it a little bit more difficult in terms of adjusting your microphones if most of your radios are 4 pins, but you know, you can easily just rewire it. We'll have a look at the back of the radio. Alright, this is the back of the Cobra 148. Not a whole lot going on back here, just the antenna jack. There's an external speaker and PA speaker jack, and your 3-pin standard Cobra power cord. As you can see, this radio was made in Malaysia, as it shows there on the back. Alright, well, let's take off the covers. We'll have a look inside. We'll show you a couple of the adjustment points and talk about the modulation circuit just a little bit. Alright, we removed the covers on the Cobra 148 GTL. This is the made in Malaysia version inside of the single sideband radio. I'm going to show you a couple of points on this radio. First one's going to be the single sideband ALC control. That is located right here at the back of the radio. I'll try and zoom in a little bit. That's VR11. It's right near the back middle of the radio, and that's your single sideband ALC control. VR10 is going to be your AM power control, so if you do need to lower the AM output on the Cobra 148 GTL, you can do so in case you're going to be running something after it, such as an amplifier or something to that effect. VR10 is going to be a little hard to see. It's over here, right next to the transformer. It's going to be down inside there. A little difficult to see. It's going to look the same as the other pots, you know, like VR11, but it's right down in there, and that's VR10, and that's your AM power. Up front here, if you do need to make any adjustments, if you're off frequency, I need to tune them in on this radio if it's been sitting for a while, which was the case with this one. This first canister here, this is your AM frequency control. This one's going to be your lower sideband frequency control, and this right here is your upper sideband frequency control. As far as modulation goes, a lot of mods you can do to these radios. Often you can waste a lot of time doing all these modifications and not really having it sound that much better. There's a couple things that people do, removing the limiters and such. We definitely do not suggest removing the limiter if you absolutely feel the need on this radio. It's kind of two sections to it. TR24 is your limiter, and this is up front here in the right corner of the radio here. That's TR24. Once again, we don't recommend removing it, but just in case you guys are looking for it, or if there's a radio that maybe you have and it doesn't sound very good and you want to replace the limiter, that's where it can be found. Removing this is going to give you louder audio on AM, but it definitely is going to cause that warble on single sideband. It's not going to sound very good. So if you want some other ways to improve the audio swing of the radio, I'd suggest clipping R131 here. We really don't like clipping stuff on radios, but from what we know on these, if you clip R131, it gives you a boost on the AM side without really affecting single sideband. And that's really the only thing we'd suggest clipping or removing on this radio in terms of the modulation circuit. This particular model of the Cobra 148 doesn't have a modulation pot, so unlike most single sideband radios, there's no way to adjust the modulation with just an internal control. So that's one of the reasons a lot of people do end up clipping R131 on these to get a little more AM audio going. On sideband, if you need more audio, just add a power microphone or something. That'll give it enough of a boost. And the Cobra 148s actually sound really good stock on sideband with just a little bit of an audio boost from a power mic. That's the inside of the radio, and hope you found the information useful. CBRadiomagazine.com.